we are well past the point where we could even try to deny that this raid tier is probably the easiest one that we've had since the days of Stormblood. World first groups are clearing it in record time, 9 hours. We are looking at red mages being an unsung hero where they are basically dragging a corpse through the fights. And why they're able to do that is because the combination of fewer body checks, which I'm going to say it right here and right now before we actually get into the discussion of the video. I am so sick of the perma body checks that we had. I think that was actually awful. One person makes one little mistake. Okay, back to the start. I don't want to go back to that. Let me say that right here now. But the combination of very few body checks, there are still some, plus the incredibly low DPS checks are absolutely making this raid tier undeniably probably the easiest that we've had in a very long time. Now, I'm going to go at this with a glass half full kind of attitude, because I don't really think that this is a total bad thing. I think that this is actually going to be very healthy for the game. I know a lot of people, including myself, kind of are getting whiplash, being like, hey, the normal raids were the hardest normal raid set that we've ever had, and now the Savage is like the easiest Savage set that we've had for a very long time. Like, say what? I'm getting whiplash from this, which I totally get it. But let's get into why this is actually a really good thing for the player base. First reason is that this gear set that we are going to need to farm is going to be necessary to have for the Furry Ultimate Raid. That is what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the Furry Raid forever. I don't care what acronym anyone wants me to use. It is Futures rewritten. It has Reen and Gaia, the wonderful lesbian couple with the fantastic cookies, which I actually baked some of them in the recipe. I baked them with my ex-fiance, and Lord above, those cookies were actually really good. The coffee biscuits, anyone remember those? Those were lit. But the Furry Ultimate Raid is definitely coming up, and we need gear for that. And the more people that you have geared up in order to participate in this ultimate raid, the more people are going to be able to participate in that ultimate raid. And I think that in and of itself is the reward of like getting more people in there. Because one thing that I have noticed, and I'm sure everyone has, like, let's be honest, we're humans and we all are actively in life doing things, or ideally, and we have noticed that, hey, if I take part in something, now I really care about it. Now, if you don't play Fortnite, if someone tells you that they unlock the battle pass, how much do you care? How much do you care if someone, and you don't play shooters, like tells you about, hey, here's my accuracy ratio with this particular thing? You probably don't care. You probably have no idea, and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. What about if you don't play League of Legends? What if someone tells you, oh, there's a new champion, and then they start going into all these details about all these abilities and how good they are as a mid laner and what they can do to the jungler and what they don't even need, like a support, and now they can run double. Like, you get what I'm trying to put down here, right? This is good for the ultimate raiding community, like really, really good, because you are going to get more people in there, and people really do give a shit when they're actually involved, and people frankly don't give a shit when they're not involved. And yeah, sure, you'll get onlookers. Like, I mean, this is the one thing about content creation bubbles, and I have my own bubble obviously too, but and I step out of it quite often, and I don't even talk about my channel in game. Like, there's been people who are just like, wait, you actually make videos? I'm like, yeah, but it's not a big deal, bro. I do it for fun, which is just the truth. But in terms of it, most people who don't engage in something don't care. Simple. And so getting people geared up and able to even try, maybe they will never clear, but even getting them the opportunity to try is a huge deal. And this raid being easier will let people clear quicker and get geared up quicker. And I'm gonna be honest, I am so past the point with this game because it's just been so many gear set cycles. I personally don't care about eye level unless there's like a point to it. And given that it is basically rather, I should just say it is a requirement for ultimates. I should just say that, because if I say anything else, people will take it totally out of context. I think that it's a really good thing for the game. The next thing is that we want more people getting into Savage raiding in general. I think that Savage raiding, in spite of a lot of our best efforts, has still been viewed as relatively unapproachable. I'm going to be honest. Having some people have their first raid tier experiences, that some people that I even knew that were very casual, go into the last two raid sets that we had during Endwalker and just get body checked after body checked, and then people being like, well, we're being held back by X so-and-so, and this one person is holding back our prog, it didn't make a lot of people feel good. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm one of those, like, I never was toxic to anyone, but I remember I went into P8SPF often, and I knew exactly what I was doing because I was well into combining the little shapes and colors for the second phase of it, and it was just so awful because people couldn't even do snakes. Like, they literally couldn't, and all it took was one person greeting one GCD, thanks Black Mage, and boom, you're gonna be stalled until that person either eventually didn't greet a GCD, which hallelujah, thank the Lord above, or in my case they usually ended up keeping on wiping us. That sucks. And so it just became an effort of like just a frustrating cycle, and I was like, I had enough. And that's not what you want people to really have as their first experience, because, like, let's be honest, like, if you are getting kicked in the teeth when you're trying something new, you might not be that excited. You need to have a little bit of a win. And do I think that there were certain fights like Igdistis, that awful tree that had no mechanics until the very end? Yeah, you could count the first 80-90% of that fight as being easy, but then it got a little harder, and then that's when you start to see people get really toxic, because it was kind of like face roll to that point, and it really became, oh, you don't know who's the weakest link until you get to that point, and then people die. That last mechanic, oh god, I remember that. And hence that leads to a positive first experience. And I do want to say, this is the first raid tier of Dawntrail. Like, factually, this is the first raid tier of Dawntrail. This is not the second or third, and historically, like, if we do look at Erkrinthos, that was not the hardest fight on the world. It wasn't. And I definitely think that this is going to get people who are on the sidelines, who are like, you know what, I might have eventually done an extreme trial. I think that might push them with how much harder normal raids is, just push them into Savage raiding. And I think that's good. Just like I said for Ultimates, it's really hard for someone to give a shit if they aren't involved. If they don't care, if they're like, oh, I'll never be good enough for that, a lot of people just tune out. Which I know is really hard to believe, like, when you're on Twitch, or like, and like people are viewing your stream, but like, remember how many players there are playing this game. Like, even if you add up everyone on Twitch, that is not even close to the player base. Now, is it a sizable chunk? Obviously, but definitely it isn't even close to a quarter of it. Now, you see, for me, because I'm obviously taking care of my mom, I obviously am trying to kind of lick my wounds from cheating ex-fiance and all that shit, which I'm not going to get into in this video. I obviously haven't been able to go into the tier myself. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to catch up on work today, because I'm doing this right now at lunch hour. This video, actually, because people asked me my thoughts on it, and I really don't think it's as bad as some people are making it out to be. I think this is actually a healthy thing for the game overall. Like, obviously, I do wish that, hey, there was more hard battle content, but you know what, it's going to come. We already know that we are going to be getting a exploration zone, so something like Boja Eureka. We already know that we are going to get variant of Criterion dungeons. We're going to get more content. Obviously, that includes the Furry Ultimate Raid. Obviously, that's going to include more Savage tiers. So I really don't think this is the death of Final Fantasy XIV, as some people have said to me. I think that that is way too negative. Do I think this tier could have been a bit more bitey? After seeing some clips sent to me of red mages basically dragging a corpse through some of the fights, yeah, I'm gonna admit I kind of think it could have been a bit more bitey, but I'd rather it be the first tier. Let me be clear, the first tier of this expansion be a little more forgiving to get people in for the reasons I talked about earlier. But aside from that, this tier is still fun. This tier still has amazing music. It still has fun characters. Like, the battles are dramatic, they're thematic, the mechanics are wild and eclectic. It's almost electrifying to like see some of these fights go on. And I know with Electrope and like the final boss, what a line to say. And this is actually totally unscripted. Like, I'm literally spitballing this at lunch. But I think that given all that it's really hard for me to say anything negative about the tier right now for the first tier. Like, we don't have those annoying as shit body checks. What body checks we do have, but like, what I mean by that is not every single fucking thing is a body check. And I am happy for that. And honest to God, I really hope I get some time this weekend to just try the tier, because it looks fun. And obviously it'll be in PF. Anyone want to adopt a cat?